Let's turn to the book of Esther tonight for the scripture reading. If you don't know where Esther is, you know where the book of Job is. The book before the book of Job. That's what Esther is tonight. We've been talking about the people that take a detour of desperation. We talked about last week and out before last about Moses' mother, daddy taking a detour of desperation for Moses. But now we're going to talk about another character that did the very same thing, but it's two characters really. Here we're going to talk about, mostly we're going to talk about here Queen Esther. We're going to read this. Before we read this chapter, we want to pray, and we'll give you a little brief introduction, then I'll go ahead and preach what I feel like God has to preach. Father, I pray tonight, bless the service, bless the preaching, use us, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. You remember how this starts out in chapter 1. How that we see here that the king had chosen a new queen because the queen he had, his wife, did not want to do and parade herself in front of a bunch of men. It was immodest, and he kicked her out. They had him kick her out and chose Queen Esther. Now, there's something we need to understand. Queen Esther was a Jewish girl. And the king did not know that she was Jewish. But we see also here that her uncle Mordecai was there. And we see here, day by day, the king had a man, or I guess you would say deputy, what we would call him. His name was Haman. And Haman was probably second in command, I guess you would say. But Haman took a hatred toward Mordecai. Because we will read in the first couple chapters how that Mordecai stood true to his convictions, and Haman, when he went by somebody, he expected him to bow down to him. But old Mordecai wouldn't bow down to Haman. And Mordecai, or Haman, grew to hate him even more. So we see here, during this time, it was a very desperate time for the Jewish people. They had been taken captive. And now we see here there was a plot. I call Haman in the Old Testament the Adolf Hitler of the Old Testament, because he literally tried to destroy the Jews. But we understand there was something here that we need to see here. There was a deed that Haman had done. Haman had got to the point, he talked the king, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, into signing or giving him his ring to make law that at the end of the year that the armies there would go, the Persian army would go in to all the little villages and hamlets and all the places and destroy the Jews, annihilate the Jewish race. Don't that sound like Adolf Hitler? But we see here, we'll pick it up here in verse number 8 of chapter 3. Verse number 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people and all the province of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hand of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agathite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee. The people also do with them as it seemeth good to thee. He wouldn't even take the money. But look here. And look here in verse 12. There were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and they were written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governor that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people out of their language, in the name of King Ahasuerus, it was written and sealed with the king's ring. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's province, to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take spoil of them for prayer. So we see here, the death warrant had already been signed. The hit was already been taken out on the Jews. So we see here, as we read here, they were to, at the end of the year, the 12th month, they were ordered to go to all the provinces where the Jews were and destroy them. Everyone, baby to the adulterous man and woman. And here we realize the Jews' life was at stake. And without the intervention of God Almighty, they were going to be annihilated, destroyed completely from the earth. And we know the reason for this, like we just said. Haman he hated Mordecai and he hated the Jews. And he was determined to do away with them. So when this it had Esther and Mordecai, they had to take that detour of desperation. There's things in our life that come. And we have to do like Esther and Mordecai. We have to take that detour of desperation. They didn't have, let me tell you, we had to be like they did. They got down to the point they didn't have nobody but God, and that's what we had to depend on. So we're going to hurry through this. We can't try to get through it tonight. First of all, we got talked about the decree of death. The Bible says that Haman came and offered the king 10,000 talents of silver. And he said, I want to give it to the men that's going to carry out the execution. I looked up how much the value of 10,000 talents of silver was. And that would equal probably, I was trying to see how, it was 10,000 talents of silver. And it would be equivalent in the United States dollars of $192 million. And I studied it out too, that was almost a third of the entire economy of the Persian Empire. So we see here, and I don't know how, evidently Haman must have had pretty good grip on the king, because the king gave him his ring, that he could seal that, what they would do, that ring was kind of a big ring, bigger than a class ring. It was engraved, it was risen up, it was risen up off the ring, the image. They would take that ring and they would put it in hot wax. And then they would seal that document with the king's seal, and that was official. So that's what he did. When the king gave Haman that ring, it was like you signing a check and giving it to somebody and tell them, say, write it for any amount you want to write it for. So we see here, there was a decree of death brought upon the Jewish people. And we see here the document that Haman In other words, this document gave Haman the permission to do whatever he wanted to the Jews. And that caused the Jews to take the detour of desperation. Can you imagine that? What would you do if somebody would come to you and hand you a decree? And tell you said all the stones is going to be killed at the end of the year. All the reaches, all the comings. All the deacons, all the chaplains. We'd go on a detour of desperation, wouldn't we? Don't we see that's what happened here? We see here, his motivation was, David's motivation was two things he was motivated to do this. First of all, hatred for the Jews and Haman, and second of all, greed. Because we see here, as we read here, as say, when they killed all the Jews, they would get all the loot. They would get about and get loot all of the Jews' homes. And were motivated by money. And you know what? A lot of people used to say the love of money is root of all evil. That ain't what the Bible says. That is wrong. The love of money is the root of, a lot of them say money is the root of all evil. But it really says, well, the love of money is the root of all evil. And let me tell you what, the Bible even says in verse 15, when they found out about this, it said the city of Shushan was in uproar. It was perplexed, it said in verse 15. In other words, they were troubled because they knew what was coming their way. Don't we see here they were taken, they didn't know what else to do. We see the despair of them. You look in verses 1 through 4, and you can read that. I'll save some time if you want to mark it and read it when you get home. The Word of God said that Haman, when he heard about the law, he was grieved. He was grieved because he loved his people. Let me tell you one thing, friend. The Bible says he began to mourn. But he was doing it to identify himself with God's people, with the Jews. It showed just how he felt about the law. And I want to tell you what, friend, in verse 4, it says here, he went out in the city and cried out with a loud voice. Now it came even before the king's gate. Now, we've got to realize something here. The king's gate, no one was allowed to go through this king's gate with sackcloth on. Because you study and read about sackcloth in the Bible, anytime you read about sackcloth, it's always related to somebody mourning. And when you go into the presence of the king, you are not to go in sad, unhappy, or grievous. You would have to go in happy and just say something encouraging to the king, because he didn't want nothing to happen. It was considered unclean to wear this sackcloth because it was a garment used in the mourning of the dead. Because the palace was clean. And nobody could address the king in just the very best. I think about the house of God. That's why I think I try my best every time I come here. I dress my very best. Because this is the house of the king. Amen. Amen. And we see here in the Word of God, we read this. We see what happened. Mordecai probably had a little guilt on his heart, Brother Mike. Because he knew that what motivated Mordecai more than anything else, because he wouldn't bow down to him. And you couldn't help but think that Mordecai began to think it's my fault these folks are going to be killed because I didn't bow. But Mordecai was a man of conviction. He's a man that has some standards, and he took a stand. There's got to be a time when people learn to take a stand. I heard a preacher say this a long time ago. Every church needs a pastor that knows how to say no to things. And that's exactly what it was here. He wouldn't bow down. All else would bow. Not Mordecai. He wouldn't do it. He knew the only one that could rescue him was the Lord. He knew that. He knew that God was the only one who could get him out of it. And he knew God was the only one going to escape, going to help him escape this. There are circumstances we've all faced. We've had to detour, take a detour desperation. The only way we got through those things, we'll all attest to the fact God had it done. Because there's no way our flesh and our minute mind could think a way of escaping. And it be done right. So we see here, they were in despair, they were in mourning. Can you imagine? I can imagine day and night. Oh, Mordecai cried in the street. Jews cried in the street. Because they know the fate that was awaiting them. Probably even got into the king's gate, got in there where the king could hear. Because they were sad. They were ready to die. Within a few months, they'd all be dead if something didn't happen. I want to tell you what, for them to understand. There's been times we all have had situations that we didn't see no way out of humanly. And we knew that it had to be God to help us out. There's no way. See, God wants us to get that place in our lives. He wants us to pray our prayers just like we would if we would every shape they would. They knew they were fixing to be killed, and they were praying earnestly. God wants all our prayers to be just like that. You ever thought about that? You see one thing about it, a Persian law, once it was made law, it could not be stopped, it could not be changed, it stayed as is. No one could veto it. No one could say, no, we're going to tear it up. It was sealed. It could not be changed, it couldn't be altered at all. It couldn't be repealed, there's no way. And they knew if something didn't happen, they were dead men. They knew that. And then all of a sudden, the word got to Queen Esther. Queen Esther was a true blue Jew. But we didn't understand, just like we remember when Joseph, we read it in Genesis, how God preserved him to save her life. God preserved Queen Esther to preserve the life of the Jewish people. They were grieved. Queen Esther heard about it. That word grieved, it simply means here in this particular verse, the tense it was used in. It means to tremble, be in pain, or to quake anguish, to be tortured by, to be distressed. Their lives were changed overnight. They did not know. They did not know. All those Jews did not know the fate that was waiting. They went to bed that night, everything was well. Got up in the morning, papers, them posts, them men on horses coming. It was really mailmen on horse came and gave them to the grave. They cried. They cried. They were in anguish. They were probably the lowest state they'd ever been in their life. I tell you what, having somebody to put a hit out on you, that pretty low state, that'd be in the hit. So we see here, Esther herself was in a place of desperation. And we were just like those Jews were. Those Jews was under the law of death. And we as God's people, as sinners, when we got saved, we were under the law of death. And we were in a very desperate situation. We had to have an intervention from a higher power than we are. Amen. Aren't you glad God intervened? Amen? Amen. So we see here, a lot of people try to be self-reformed, good deeds, good works, and change their habits. And just have religion, they don't get the job done. But we see here about the intervention about to take place. It was a dangerous intervention. We read here, if we read the scripture and talk about what Mordecai had done and had talked to Esther. And chapter 1 and chapter 4, verse 8, so also gave it a copy of the writing of the decree that was given to Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, declare it unto her, and to charge her that should go unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. And Esther spake unto Hatak and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and all the people of the king's province do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is not one law of his to put him to death, except to whom the king shall hold his scepter, golden scepter, then he may live. But I have not been called to come in the king these 30 days. She hadn't seen this king, her husband, in 30 days. You see what happened here? Mordecai sent her a copy of the decree and said, "You've got to do something about this. You've got to go to the king." She sent word back and said, "You know, Mordecai, that nobody goes into the king's court without being invited first. And if they should do that without being invited, by the Persian law, they will be put to death immediately." But we see here what happened. She said the king is very well protected. He was not to hear any kind of bad news at all. I hadn't seen him in 30 days. But we see here, Esther was called upon to take her very life in her own hands. Because she was the only one that could persuade the king to do what? To save her people. Even though he was her husband, that law applied to everybody. It's just like some of you husbands, if you were a king in that time, your wife couldn't even come see you unless you give her permission. And if she came in there, you could have had her put to death. This was the situation Esther was. They were desperate people. They had to do something. Their people, the Jewish race, was going to be annihilated, completely wiped off the face of the earth if somebody didn't do something. Their response was a response of fear. And we see what Mordecai said to Esther. He responded to Esther when she told her, "You know what happened if I go in?" And we see here what she said. We see here what she said when he said that. In verse 13 of chapter 4, he said, "Then Mordecai commanded to Esther, think not with thyself that thou shouldst escape in the king's house more than all Jews." What he's telling you, you're going to die too, Esther. That even though you're in the king's house, you'll die too because you're a Jew. Said you're not exempt from this. Remember that? "For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come unto the kingdom for such a time as this?" What did he say? He said, "We're facing execution, Esther." He said, "But you are too. You may be the queen. You may be the king's wife. But you're going to die just like the rest of them. Because the Persian law said all Jews." He said, all Jews. No exception. Mordecai done decided. Like I said, he decided the only one going to be able to help him and deliver him would be God. He encouraged Esther. He was encouraging Esther to stand up for God's people. Sometimes we face different situations. We have to take stands, and sometimes stands are not pleasant for people. Sometimes you'll make people mad. Sometimes you make people, they'll even cut fellowship with you, take a stand. But if it's right according to the will of God, we have to do what we got to do for him. Job said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. That I will maintain my way before him. Hebrews 10:38, now the just shall live by his faith. But if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. You know what? If you do the will of God, God could put us aside and choose somebody else for. You ever remember that? Because God don't need us. We need him. And if we, God, we understand that's what's important. Mordecai encouraged himself. You know, said Esther. Here's what he said, prayed in. He said, you know we're going to be killed, but you know you're going to be killed too. And he said, you are the only hope we have of getting something done about this. You know what, like I said a while ago, if we refuse to obey God's will, we have set us aside and somebody else to do it. Won't tell you what. He can also whip us and discipline us until we submit to him. It may cost the life of your loved one or your health, or it might cause you to lose your money, losing everything you got. And God can get you because he can have any way cause you. The Bible says he rules to heaven, he does what he pleases. So we see here how he responded to Esther. Now there's some direction. We're going to try to get this done. How do we deal with desperate circumstances that arise? How do we do that? Look at verse 15 and 16 of chapter 4. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maiden will fast likewise, and so will I go into the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. First of all, the Bible says she fasted for 3 days, 3 nights, and maidens in her house, and all the Jews that were in Shushan, they all fasted for 3 days. Doesn't eat, doesn't drink nothing. Now the normal day of fasting for Jews is the day, the normal time. She said to go to God in prayer too. When you're in this situation, I've seen more than one time, folks. I've seen God answer prayer. If you fast and pray over something, I tell God God will give you peace on how long He wants you to. And when you fast, what you do while you're fasting, you commit yourself to the Word of God and you commit yourself to prayer to God. People don't fast no more like they used to. People don't pray and fast like they used to. They may pray, but they ain't going to go without food. But I tell you what, if you do that, you may not be medically able to get enough food, but there's something that's dear to you can go without, like your television, your telephone, your computer, other things. I want to tell you something, friend. The first thing to do is go to God in prayer before you make a move, when you make that move in that detour of desperation. Because if you don't, you make the wrong move. You could very well make the wrong move. But I want to tell you something we see here. The directions on dealing with this. Esther was submitted to the Word of God. She said, if I perish, I'll perish. Her attitude here, you see Esther had an attitude of submission. In other words, whatever happened to me, it happened to me. I'm going to do it. It's easy to do the will of God when we don't get out of our comfort zone. It's easy to do the will of God when it don't cost us nothing. But it's another thing when we know it's going to cost us something deeper. Esther was putting her very life. She was like Romans 12:1, she become a living sacrifice. She said, God. She told Haman, she told Mordecai, so we're going to pray and fast for 3 days. You get all the Jews that you send to pray and fast for 3 days, and said, then I'll go into the king. It's not even according to the law. I knew I put myself in jeopardy by doing it. I said I will go in, and if he don't see fit to let me live, so be it. If I perish, I perish. She was yielded on to whatever happened to her, she was yielded to her. Even Paul, in the Word of God, in Acts chapter 20 and verse number 24, he had an attitude like this. You know what he said? But none of these things move me, neither account I my life fear myself, so that I might finish my course with joy in the ministry which I received the Lord Jesus, to testify of the gospel of the grace of God. 3 Hebrew boys said, go ahead and fire us up, buddy. They said, if you don't bow, you're going to burn. They said, throw another log on fire. We ain't going to bow. God, when he got in there, the Lord was already waiting on him. Oh, that old king looked in there and there was 4 men walking. Said, didn't you just throw three people in there? Yeah. But I see 4 and one of them was like the Son of God. And when they left the fire, when the 3 boys went out of the fire, only 3 come out. Well, that other guy, he stayed in the fire. Because he knew every one of us sometime going to go back in the fire. He'd be waiting on us in the fire.
Amen.
So we see here the character of Esther was revealed in this statement. She was committed to the cause, no matter what she had to do. She was committed to it. She said, Lord, I love my people. Lord, I love you more than my people. And God, I'm going to beseech, I'm going to go in knowing either way, I will. And Esther did this. But I believe that she began to pray, fasting. She prayed as if it all depended upon God. We need to do the very same thing. Why are you defeated today? Because you don't really pray and believe God can help you in your need. Why do you leave here at church a lot of times worried to death when you try to pray and you can't get no peace? Because you don't believe God's going to do it. What you need to do is take that burden. Take that burden with God. And when you lay it down here, please don't let a chain be tied to that burden in your leg and you drag it back to your pew. Esther said, look, I'm submitted to doing the will of God. I'm praying, and it depends on God to do it. I prayed before. I've had things in my life that happened over the last 41 years since I've been saved. And I knew the only way. There'd been situations I didn't know how to get out of. Financial situations that I didn't know how I was going to get out of. You know what? I did. But you know what? It caused me to pray and depend. Just say, Lord, I've got to give it to you. I've told this story before, but I want to remind us of it. I pastored a church in 1985-86. That was one of the biggest burdens I ever had in my life. They turned on me after about 2 or 3 months, and I fought it for 14 months, and finally gave it up. My salary dropped about $700 to $800 a month. Then the bills would start coming in. You didn't know anything about Montgomery County and Troy. That's a poor place. About the only thing they had there you can make much money doing, either working at the rug mill or working at the lumber yard. I worked at that rug mill. Things got tight. I walked around with a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach for a long time. Struggling to try to support my wife and my 2 little girls. Every time the phone rang, I'd draw up, I paid a big bill collector. And I don't listen here, I pay my bills. You ain't got it, you ain't got it. I didn't have it. And all of a sudden, we come home one day. I got out of the car, walked to the front door, and there's a letter on my door. We were behind on a mortgage. They said if you don't make a payment within the next 2 weeks, we'll come in and take you home. That very moment, I broke. I told Big the youngest, I said, go over in the house. I said, I'm going to walk down here in the woods a little bit. I said, we're going to pray. That's what I told her. I didn't think I was going to think I was going to kill myself. I walked down there, and I've been going there a while. There's a big old, right there in the pine thicket, there's a big old white flint rock sitting right there in that pine thicket. I bowed down at my altar. I said, Lord, God, I'm at the end. And if you don't answer these prayers, I'm not going to make it. God, I can't do it no longer. You're going to have to do it. And it seemed like the Holy Ghost told you. I didn't hear no audible voice, but it spoke to my heart, so that's why we want you to take off. Guess what happened?
Turn around.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
See, we get in a desperate situation. See, we need to learn, hey, if God don't do it, it ain't going to get done anyway. I had bitterness in my heart against people that turned on me in that church. I fought that bitterness for a long time. But I found out one thing. Bitterness will kill you. Once I got that bitterness in my heart, God will get over the door and preach here, all over. Why? I finally give it all to Him. That song Leonard Fletcher, Brother Leonard Fletcher wrote from the Tennessee mountains. He said, give it all to Him. You don't understand, just give it all to Him. But we see here, she submitted to the Word of God. You'll never go wrong standing by this book. You'll never go wrong. But the plot of Naaman was finally discovered. Naaman had already told us, and I want y'all to build it. See, I want you to build a gallows 50 foot high, 50 cubits high, and our measurements have been 75 feet high. See what we're going to do? We're going to hang when we're tired. But God began to work behind the scenes. Esther went into the king. The king held out his scepter. She touched it. He told her what happened. At that time, she didn't tell him what was going on. She said, King, I want to make a big banquet, have a banquet, 2 banquets, tomorrow night and the night after that. He said, tell me what you wish and I'll tell you then. You see what happened? At about the second night, they had that banquet. There it was. He finally asked her, he said, look, what's happened? What's your petition? It says here that in verse 2 of chapter 7, the king said unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered, said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given to me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people to be destroyed, to be slain, and to be perished. But if we had been sold for bondwoman, I held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then King Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he and where is he that doth presume in his heart to do so? Oh, Haman was in there, but he knew. He said, I'm going to get him tonight, and I'm going to get my way. All of a sudden, his countenance changed. Who is this man presuming to do this? And where is he at? Esther, I believe that Esther took her finger and pointed right at Haman. In verse number 6 said, and Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman. And Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, rising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the king's palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther, the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. All of a sudden, the table turned. I had the table turned. What happened? The king, he got so mad, he went ahead to go out in the palace garden to cool off. They said he draped the cloth over Haman's face because he was afraid to look upon the face of the king's wrath. That's how mad he was. We see how God what happened. In verses 9 and 10. You can get my page started here. It says this. And Harmon, one of the chamberlains said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him there. He said, you take Haman, you put him on the gallows, you hang him right now. The truth, you know what? I like this. The truth come out and the truth set them free, didn't it?
Amen.
So did it set them free. They destroyed that enemy. Haman was hung. That he had already made. He was hung for the gallows that was made for Mordecai. God had the way to turn the table for our behalf, right? God, let me tell you one thing. You go through desperate times. Stay with God and pray and stick with it. Because sooner or later, He's going to turn things around for us. Amen?
Amen. Amen.
So we all get on a detour of desperation. But God has not let us down, not failed us, not let us down, not forsaken us. He's right there. Just a prayer away. And we see how, you see now, we see, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this, and I won't go into the verse, but chapter 9, we see as I read, that the law could not be reversed. It could not be changed. It could not be altered or reversed or even vetoed or even put away. You know what happened in chapter 9? God protected those people in time of desperation. You know what happened? He allowed Mordecai to write a new law, giving the Jews protection from when that time come at the end of the year with them attack to defend himself. It couldn't alter that law that had already been made. It couldn't stop it, but it could make a new law to amend the other law to help the Jews. We ever find ourselves in that time of desperation? I've been there many times. I have. Commit yourself to the situation and cast it all on the Lord. He'll help you. We all sometime you haven't been in a state hadn't had to take a detour of desperation. You will sooner or later. Remember this: if God gets you to it, He'll get you through it. Amen. And I'm glad of that tonight. Father, thank you for this night. Allow me to be back in the house of the Lord.